Recording in progress.
I'm not even gonna find a button on there to have people use their raised hand icon because he doesn't. use it anyway.
Right, yeah, and he'll be logged in, so he can call on people.
Wow. And it's a girl.
Really? Wow, how cool is that? Yeah, is it the first
No,
or
it's her third.
her third? Which daughter is this?
Andrea.
Andrea, okay, yeah. Nice.
So yeah, just shut it down and then unplug the focus right.
Okay, shut the computer down
Yeah.
and then plug the focus right, okay, yeah. All right. Cool, we can do
Can't
that,
even skip.
huh?
I want to skip. I can't even skip.
Yeah, right, yeah, you can't skip right now, can you? Well, Lois, that's sad. Let's see, I guess I'll get out the,
Back up there. I have them in the drawer below. They can go in the drawer below. I just.
is Ron's down here?
No, this is not.
Oh, it's out. Oh, I see, this was out yesterday. From.
Thank you very much for doing that. I don't have to worry about it.
Oh, yeah, no, we'll have to take care of that, yeah, because you won't be back, so it'll be no problem.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I'm
was
just worried
like
about
really fortunate that tomorrow I didn't have any plans because I just made a.
I'm sorry, it's all a lot in 1 year, but if we have been keeping up. And we would have been an issue. And if we need to appoint a salary wage committee. Because these wages have got to be reviewed every year. I'm not,
I
so,
don't understand why it's.
well, they haven't been, and that's been the problem.
conversation.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I'm not selling that either.
Okay, well,
Well, good
I'll have grandbaby number 11 by the time I
Oh my
see you guys again.
Gosh, Lois. I can't wait to hear weights and names and.
Edna.
Edna?
Edna Rose.
Really pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an old fashioned name.
That's his grandma's name.
Uh-huh. Aw,
Yeah.
how nice. Have fun. Quit. Quit.
County.
Hey, all right, that's awesome. You're good, Dylan. Real good.
Yeah, they took the combined intelligence and expertise from you and me. What do we need him or her for?
Don't.
Oh, wait a minute. Is anybody on yet? Lois's daughter's got bad timing.
Yeah. Oh, shoot.
Turn it off, turn it back on. Let me turn my volume off. Yeah, let's do that. We can get rid of that recording. I can't believe I said that. Thank you, Cheryl. Yeah.
Oh, okay, well.
Mm.
At the end. But then will I be able to restart?
Did I open it? Oh, no, okay. Save. Desktop.
All I do is stop the video, not the meeting. Shall I end?
Yeah, and do you know how to restart it though? If not, don't worry about it. I don't want you to make it difficult on yourself.
I don't want to.
I'll get by. Get out of there.
I've never started it, so.
Yeah, don't then. And I don't want to. We're gonna, she wants us to shut that down at the end. I'm getting so tired of having so many meetings. Yeah, me too. It's always bad during budget time though. Yeah, it is. Hey, as long as we're going over wage stuff, maybe we should readdress that park and rec and make that this, I mean, I think we should make it the same as the other ones and that way it's. Yeah, it needs to be. Maybe we should just address that. Oh, I didn't bring a pen out. I got lots of them in here if you don't want to go all the way back. I'll be in either tomorrow or Friday to finish my last distribution for the year. Okay. Since I got an all clear from the county.
Louise,
Hi, hello, how are you?
good yourselves?
Excellent, thank you.
So Lois bouncing away out. She said daughter went into labor.
Yeah,
Exciting.
birthing a baby tonight.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah,
I'm
Her
Karen,
11th
by the way.
Karen, nice to
Karen
meet
Glenn,
you.
Don's wife.
Hi Karen,
Nice
I'm
to meet
Della.
you.
I'm Cheryl.
Della, Cheryl. Hi, nice to meet you.
That's not Lois's first granddaughter, is it?
No, her
I don't
11th.
think so.
Oh, no, it's her 11th grandchild.
Yeah, okay, I thought there were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The third one from her youngest daughter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Everything's going okay, right? I mean.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so. Yeah, I think she's a little early, but not too early.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hi, Heidi. Hi, Heidi. You can sit over here. There's no one going in and out of my office if you want.
Anytime in the meeting.
Yeah, as long as my office isn't open and
Okay,
Trace isn't in there.
Stay warm.
Like in church.
In church, we sit on the front pew. No, not really. We sit back. In fact, we've been doing Zoom lately.
Careful, somebody's listening. Mhm.
You guys won't tell them.
You're on camera, so. just
Yeah.
video evidence of it.
We'll be sending you to all the appropriate parties.
Yeah, give us a list of who you'd like to get.
Karen. Oh, yes, you are very cool.
And then maybe if you go past the road that we turn to go to the house.
Right.
And that's down the road to the right. Yeah. It's gonna come. Yes. And you must be neighbors too, you know.
It's Karen Glenn.
Karen Glenn and
Dublin.
Don, and I'm Diane. Yeah. It's nice to have these meetings so that we can come and meet our neighbors. Carol, did they ever find anybody to replace Ernie down here?
Yes, we did. Yeah, that's been almost 3 years ago now. Well, he retired before
Oh, he did.
his passing. Yeah, a couple years before. Yeah. Yeah. Quite a legacy, 50+ years.
Yes. And he took that job so seriously.
He did. Yeah.
And his daughter Tammy was so like, yes, my dad does this.
Yeah. I think she helped him sometimes.
She probably did.
Yeah. Yeah.
We used to, like, when I was growing up, and even when I lived in Traverse City, we would come out to their house on Sunday for church.
Yeah.
And he'd have to go over there.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so we'd walk down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really kept him in good shape
Yes, he did.
for a lot of years. It finally was his vision that he couldn't drive anymore.
Yeah.
So
He was a good guy.
very good guy. Yeah.
Heidi, are you ready?
Yep.
Cheryl?
Yep.
Ardella?
Yes.
All right. So we'll call this meeting to order at 7 p.m. Good evening, 7:01 p.m. Excuse me. Good evening, everyone. This is the Whitewater Township Board meeting, special meeting, March 9, 2022. And so we have called to order at 7:01 p.m. Roll call when ready, please.
Beck,
Here.
Goss, here, Pop,
Here.
Bauman.
Here,
Any changes to the agenda this evening?
I have one. Can we add a 5-minute discussion on the ARPA funds, please?
Board, what is your thought?
Yeah. Sure.
We'll do that as business number 2. For discussion, anything else? Any conflict of interest tonight? And let's do public comment this evening. So starting off here in the Township Hall. Is there anyone who would like to make public comment? So the protocol here is very simple. You come up and we give you glaring looks and yell at you. Not really, but if you would make your way to the podium, and if you care, you can introduce yourself by name, and you can tell us whatever you're thinking. We'll give you about 5 minutes. 4 minutes and 59 seconds to be exact.
Linda Slopsima. I'm a township resident. So I wanted to I know today's agenda is regarding the budget for 2022-2023 and specifically wages for employees. So as I looked at the budget documents, I see that you have what I would call a red budget, meaning you are proposing a deficit budget, a shortfall of $460,000, which I find rather shocking. It's about 50% more than what you're taking in. So I find this to be, quite frankly, unprofessional and irresponsible. I think we are all aware of rapidly rising inflation and a stock market correction right now. And we all personally and professionally need to be conservative in our spending. Therefore, I do not find 30% raises for employees to be appropriate. Specifically, park rangers received a 25% raise last year. And now you want another 13% added on to that, which totals 42% total in 2 years. I don't really know anybody that's received a 42% raise in the last 2 years total. If it is truly necessary to increase the park ranger wages to that level in order to have people to run the park, then we should be increasing the park fees in order to fund it directly. 30% raises for deputy clerk, deputy treasurer, historical society person, along with committee members. I personally find that to be unnecessary given the conditions that we're in with a red budget. I don't think it's really necessary to do that in order to retain employees. I think it would be interesting to ask those people what they think they need to be paid, if anything, for doing their duty. I know that I've served on a committee and quite frankly was shocked that I would be paid anything for that. That's not why I signed up to do it. Lastly, I'd like to comment on the fire department. It appears as though the fire department is in crisis with loss of employees and difficulty attracting employees. I've read some of the dialogue that the wages are not competitive with other fire departments in the area, that we're underpaying. And therefore, I would say we need to spend money in this area for public safety. Currently, they're only requesting 11 to 13% increases. And honestly, I don't really know whether that's sufficient to address the concern and make sure that we can adequately compete for those employees. And then lastly, I would just mention, if we leave things as is, as proposed, how do you all feel about paying park rangers more than firefighters? I don't feel real good about that. I think we all need to get back to basics. You need to balance your budget and you need to figure out how to prioritize what are the truly critical projects that need to be done versus the nice to have projects. And I'm very concerned if you continue as planned that you're on a path to exhaust your reserve funds. Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the township hall that would like to make public comment?
My name's Diane Mack and I live over on Odell Road, so I am a resident here. And there's just a couple things that have jumped out at me that I would share, that it would be a little bit of a concern to me as a taxpayer. And the first would be is that there's not very many people here. And you want to know why? Because it wasn't advertised. And you know, I mean, it didn't even show up on the calendar. And I had to search for it. And it was only because I found the packet that was for you guys tonight. And in fact, it wasn't on anywhere yesterday. And I didn't even think this meeting was going to happen. So I think that there's something that needs to be checked into so that we can find a way to get the information disseminated out to the taxpayers a little more readily, especially on something as important as this meeting being a special meeting. And what was the other thing I was going to say? I was just so about that. Yeah. Well, I'll think about it. Will we have more time to comment later?
There is a second public comment, as long as you don't repeat yourself, as long as you don't repeat yourself, as long as
I don't repeat myself like this, like repeat myself. No, I will think about that and see what it is. Thank you.
Good evening. My personal thoughts, it would be helpful for me in your budget process if you asked for more hours for your deputy clerks, if you could explain why there would be a need for more hours. What is different from last year that now you need more assistance with this year? And I personally, I don't understand the position, your salaried positions of treasurer and clerk and supervisor as part-time, but I don't know what part-time, what how many hours that means. Is that 10 hours a week or on average 15 or 20 or 40 or, what is part-time to you? And that's where it needs some clarification, I think, for myself anyway. Thank you.
Anyone else here in the Township Hall? So we'll go out to Zoom land and I see Connie Highmore. Good evening, Connie. Any public comment this evening?
Hi, everyone. Connie Highmore. I'm going to spell my last name Hymore. My husband and I own property on Baggs Road, 6761 Baggs Road. Thank you for the opportunity to speak at these meetings. My husband, Frank Highmore, and I strongly disagree with the proposed Baggs Road condominium development. I know this isn't on your table at this time, but you've heard us speak about it because it's so important to us. We understand that growth in the community is inevitable, and so is change. We are asking the Planning Commission and the board, when it comes time, to follow the Whitewater Township Master Plan when considering these changes. Written under master plan goals, number 1 states respect the rights of the township residents and property owners. A bullet point then states encourage land uses that are compatible with the adjacent land uses. As I look around Baggs Road, nowhere do I see condo developments. What I do see are single family homes built on large lots. Most of them encompass several acres. The 30-acre parcel that this development is proposed to be built on is zoned agricultural. It's rural land, the same as our 9.5-acre parcel. Did we expect neighbors in a newly constructed home on that 30-acre parcel? Most definitely. Did we expect 22 homes on that parcel of land? Never. Why? Because there are no existing condo developments in the vicinity, nor do any of the opposed neighbors have a plan to build a condo development on their property. And why is that? Because a condo development is not compatible with adjacent land usage. If we follow the Whitewater Township Master Plan in this instance, a condo development is not what we should see on Baggs Road. In closing, I appreciate the hard work that all of you are doing for the residents of Whitewater Township, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Hello, Vicky Beam. Good evening. Welcome.
Evening. I would be in there, but I am not feeling well. So I thought I would keep my germs with me at home. I want to echo what everybody has already said. Thank you for your time. As I have mentioned before in other meetings, you are stewards and fiduciaries for the township and the township money. I applaud the time that you're putting into this. Since the development that was proposed on Baggs Road came to light for me, I have been trying to attend as many meetings as I can, in addition to working full time. So maybe that is why I'm homesick today. But I wanted to echo the comments that our new neighbor Connie mentioned regarding the Baggs Road proposed condo site development of 22 homes. Again, realizing it is not part of the agenda this evening, but it came to light since all of this started that we have neighbors that are on Lassie Road that have gone through obstacle after obstacle to build a barn for horses, and they are on agricultural property. So I just feel like something is missing here. I agree. With everyone, we know that change is inevitable. I am not saying that we do not develop further, but we should do it in a way that recognizes goal number 2 of the master plan, preserving Whitewater Township rural character. As for the reason you all are meeting tonight, I want to echo the first comment that was made. I had a hard time finding information for this meeting. I knew it was happening, and I went on there and went through the clicks. There's a link to show agenda, and then I went to a error 404 page. So I actually reached out to Ron in order to find out how to find the agenda and link for this Zoom meeting. So that's disappointing. I agree with everyone else. I think a lot more people would have been here if it would have been a little bit more notice and easier to find. I attended your meeting where a lot of you talked about what you're going to continue this evening. It ran so long that I could not make my comments at the end. But some of the things that I would like you to think about, I am a business owner. I am very much a steward of my business and managing costs. We do not in the private sector have the ability to do the kind of raises that you are proposing. We would be out of business if we did this. So I ask that you be fiduciarily responsible for our taxpayer dollars. I have a question. Are reviews actually being conducted on a regular basis? What is the grounds for raises that are being offered to your park rangers? When I was in the meeting, there was conversation that the Historical Society really wasn't necessarily doing anything. And there was a question of if it would continue on, but yet we're proposing a pretty substantial raise for that. So as I mentioned in the beginning, I would like to see you all look at what is it that you're doing in order to offer these raises. Again, we talked about rates that are going on in other areas. Amazon, I know, is not here locally. They're all over the news. They start everybody at $15 an hour, and that's national. I think we have to really look at what is it that we're offering for what it is that we're getting. And I agree with a comment that was made earlier. If there are more hours being asked, is that something that's actually being documented? So to repeat myself, thank you all very much for your time. I'm exhausted with your meeting schedule, so I appreciate you all doing what you're doing, but please keep in mind that you are the fiduciaries for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Kim. Do you have any public comments this evening? Okay.
Sorry about that. Had difficulty unmuting. I guess my only comment, I read through the packet for this evening, and I guess I have to agree with Ms. Slopsma. I think you have your raises and your evaluations backwards. If you're going to give a raise, it should be no more than a 3% cost of living, which is considered generous currently. And if you haven't done a raise in 2 years, then you shouldn't be raising it more than 6%. 20 and 30% raises in a year. I understand you want to be generous, but you're being generous with our money. And it's disproportionate, especially in our current economy. It's too much. There are other things that you can offer employees, such as flexible time off, etc., adjustable scheduling, especially since this is almost all part-time jobs. I think your raises are a bit out of scale. And that goes for myself. I don't think that what we're paying our committees has anything to do with our vacancies. I think lack of appointment has more to do with our vacancies. But I would encourage you to tone things down. I think you're overdoing it a bit. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Kim. And good evening, Tom. Do you have any public comment? Hello, Tom.
Hello.
Hi, there you are.
I was having a hard time with my technicalities here. I just want to say, and by the way, this is Vicki Emerson. I just wanted to say that I agree with all the other people regarding the raises. As a nurse, we typically got a 3% increase a year, and we're dealing with people's lives. I have a very difficult time with the generosity of your raises that are proposed. And with our current economical status, I think this is way out of line. And I also have to indicate I had a very difficult time getting on this meeting. The calendar page for this date was totally blank. And I had to reach out to Heidi to figure out how to get onto this meeting. So that's very upsetting. It feels like there is no transparency in this community as far as it feels like things are being hidden from the public on a lot of different issues. And I applaud all the people who are bringing stuff to your attention. Linda Slopsma has worked very hard, and thank you, Linda. And now Vicky Beam is working very hard. There are so many issues that the public is not even aware of, and that's very concerning to me. That's all I have for right now. Oh, excuse me, one more thing. The fire department needs critical attention. It is not right, the risk that these people are putting their lives into for what little they get paid. And you're going to pay a park ranger more than a firefighter. That is wrong. Firefighters put in a lot of time for training that they get no compensation for. That's all I have. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Those are all the people I see on Zoom currently, so I apologize if I've missed anyone. We've had new people enter the Township Hall. So is there any additional public comments in the Township Hall? Hearing none, we will move into deputy wage, salary, wage schedule discussions.
I think, excuse me. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, that's all right. Get it fired up and file set, whatever you need.
It'll be a second.
Okay. Just be a brief moment while the tape recorder boots up. Sorry for the delay. I would sing, but it would be a mass exit out of the parking
That's
lot.
okay.
So, you know, I would feel as bad for even the birds.
Go ahead.
Okay.
I was just gonna say that I think there's a little bit of a misconception when it comes to the deputy wages. The deputy's wages in 2012 was $12 an hour. 2013, we raised it to $13 an hour.
No,
Very close.
we didn't raise it to $13 an hour, starting wage till 2019.
Okay, so there hasn't been, except for $1 raise since 2012 in the deputy starting wages. This board was neglectful on keeping up with what it should have done to keep up with the pay, current pay raise. If we had, we wouldn't be having this discussion today. But because we've had the same deputies and nobody thought that it was important to keep up with the going rate for deputies, because we had people in place and they were getting 3% raises a year. They're not looking, nobody's looking at the fact that you can't hire somebody for $13 an hour to do what our deputies do. 2012. $1 between 2012 and 2019. Does anybody think that's wrong? Anybody would work for that? I seriously doubt it. If I lose my deputy tomorrow, for whatever reason, you expect me to hire somebody with her skill level for $13 an hour? That's crazy. It's unreasonable. And nobody in this building would work for $13 an hour doing the skilled labor they do. Doesn't matter that it's part-time position. They don't make all the benefits.
And I will say, Ardella, in response to that, nobody says that we have to bring people in year one.
I understand that, Ron.
So here's a huge rub that I don't know how many people know. And the rub is the selection of a deputy is handpicked by each elected member, myself, the treasurer, and the clerk. It circumvents, the selection of a deputy circumvents all hiring processes. We don't even get to, the board doesn't even interview the deputy. So you're asking us to take a wage and increase it for someone we haven't even met yet. That's the only thing the board can control is the wage.
That is true.
Yeah.
And
So allow me to finish. And so as the county clerk Bonnie Shealy wrote, that often the administrator there brings people in at more than the entry level because of their skill set. And I think we would do the same here too. So now it doesn't look like the county is going to continue that practice this year because, this was unclear, it looks like maybe the county folks are getting 2 raises, one at 4.5%, and then potentially April 1, another 5%. So, that's about a 9.5% pay increase in 1 year. And I think that's due in part that the county's trying to catch up a little bit to their wage schedule being behind. So that's all I want to say, I guess, about deputies. And I think you bring a good quality candidate to a good quality board, and we're going to follow your recommendations. That's what I think.
but there's no guarantee in that. It
You're
depends
right.
on who's sitting on the board and what kind of grudge
You're
they
right.
have to grind. Kim Magnus said that in 3 years, to do a 3% raise was appropriate. And if you're playing catch up, 6%. But that was for 3 years. If you're not doing the 3% every year, what about 12 years? You said a good point. The county is playing catch up for their starting wage. All I'm asking for is a reasonable catch up for their starting wage. That's all I'm asking for. Honestly, it doesn't truly affect my deputy as much because she's got, what, what did we say, 13 years then? That she's being paid for?
Um,
So I'm thinking of the next treasurer that comes in that has to fill this position.
we targeted her at moving into 13 years. Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm very fortunate that I've had somebody that long with that many skill sets. That's not always going to be the case.
And so additional documents provided in tonight's packet was kind of like a salary survey.
Mhm.
And, you know, what that did is, in my opinion, solidify that we have a terrific foundation on our current wage scale without a 3% COLA for the upcoming year. Now, I don't think we should compare ourselves to anybody who had anybody on this list, to be honest with you. They all have a business center, a commercial center, and likely generate many more taxes than we do, especially the village of Elk Rapids. You know, folks that live in the village, I think they actually pay a village tax and a township tax. They're getting hit twice, if I remember correctly.
I don't really know.
I owned one piece of property in the village, and I had to pay to the village and to the township taxes.
It don't seem
How
right.
it was split out, you know,
Yeah.
did I not pay sewer and water twice? You know what it's so long ago, I don't remember. But case in point, you know, our folks right now are making between $16.59 and $17.99 an hour before we give the customary 3% cost of living or COLA raise. And so for me to go even at what I recommended, which was a 10% increase, I'm withdrawing that. And I say we stand with our customary 3% increase. If we have to adjust something because we can't fill a specific job post, then let's target that for review. But across the board, even before we meet our candidates, I can't do it. Thank you.
Is it my turn?
Sure.
Okay, well, I'm just going to correct one of your comments right off the bat. The deputy clerk is making $15.99 right now an hour, not 16 something as you quoted. So I really appreciate all the people coming that are on Zoom and here. And I wish that all of you had been here for all of our budget sessions. We have had about 20 hours of budget sessions spread over, this is our 6th meeting. And there's a lot of information that you don't have because you weren't in those budget sessions. And so I'm going to fill you in on some of that, as well as some other information that I'm quite sure you don't have, not through any fault of your own. So the Authorities and Responsibilities of Michigan Townships book is our guidebook. It cites lots of laws that have to do with townships. And on page 113, under deputies, the clerk and the treasurer must each appoint a deputy. The supervisor may appoint a deputy. If anybody wants a copy of this, I'll be glad to cite the MCL numbers for you. So the clerk and treasurer are mandated to have a deputy. If something were to happen to us, the checks would still get written, payroll would still happen, vendors would still get paid, and other various things. The supervisor doesn't have to have a deputy. And of course, piggybacking a little bit on what Della said, I checked this out today. I thought, gee, I wonder how often we have reviewed the wages of the deputy on the graded wage scale. Well, in 9 years, like I say, I went back to the graded wage scale that was in effect when I took office here in November of 2012. And that was the wage scale that was adopted March 27th of 2012. Deputy starting wages were at $12 an hour. And the graded wage scale functions on an automatic 3% raise every year for all the positions that are on there. So, and then in the course of the 9 years, going on 10, this will be the 10th year. That was March of 2012, correct? So in March of 2019, 7 years later, the deputy clerk and treasurer and supervisor starting wages went up $1 in 7 years. That's an epic failure of this board. Epic failure of this board. There's no way that that should not have been adjusted at least twice during that time period. So that is an epic failure of this board, and that's why we're having this discussion. So we are now 10 years out from the graded wage scale that was in effect when I got here, and starting wages for deputies have gone up $1 an hour. So I'm thinking in the future, you know, since apparently this is not being looked at, counties in the same position, they didn't look at it for a while, but they've looked at it more than we have. We're going to need to appoint some kind of salary wage committee that every year reviews all of the positions on the graded wage scale and on the salary wage schedule, so we don't get so far behind again, because we're way behind. Then I would point to you this. First of all, my deputy came here in March of 2013 after leaving behind 38 years of payroll and accounts payable experience at Sara Lee, doing payroll for 550 people. Her skills at payroll laws, that type of thing she just knows a lot. Knows a lot about accounts payable, has taught me quite a few things. An extremely, extremely valuable employee. Lois was here before I was, and I know that she had experience before she came here. I don't know how many years and what exactly it was. Despite all of that experience for both of them, I didn't understand that I could start a deputy higher than at the starting wage. So my deputy started at $12 an hour in March of 2013. So then let's talk about the things that deputies don't get. And so when you have, I get it, it's part-time people, but this is little old Billyburg here, and we still have to attract help because we have to have our deputies. Right? It's mandated in the law that we have deputies. So they're a huge benefit to the township. So our deputies have been serving in these positions. Lois, I think, started in the fall of 2019, or was it June? She came on early, not 2019, 2009.
Yeah.
She came on early because you came on early to get training, I believe. And so Lois has been here since about June of 2009. It's March of 2022. My deputy's been here this month 9 years. Okay. So I researched all of this stuff because initially I wasn't even going to, I hadn't even been thinking about deputy wages. And when I got to looking at the graded wage scale, and I got down to the line where the deputies are, I went, what? You've got to be kidding me. Our starting wage for a deputy is $13 an hour. There's no way on God's green earth we're going to find anybody for 13 bucks an hour. We have to get our starting wage up to a competitive wage to even attract anybody to come here. And I'll tell you, here's all the things that the deputies don't have. Okay, they don't have any retirement. Our deferred compensation program is a joke. There's no employer match. They have gotten the 3% automatic increases that everybody else gets on the graded wage scale. They do not get cost of living. They have no health care of any kind. No vision, no dental, no health insurance. They have no life insurance, no accidental death insurance, no disability insurance. They have no paid personal days. If they're not sitting in the seats, they're not getting paid. They have no paid vacation days. They have no paid sick days. They are not paid for holidays. They have not previously been paid for training of any kind, and training is necessary in these jobs. Okay. In the case of the deputy clerk, there's election training, there's other types of training, and there's training that's required in the treasurer's office. So all we have to offer our deputies is a wage. That is it. So I'm going to argue with anybody who says that we shouldn't, I don't care what percentage it is. I really don't care what percentage it is. Our deputy starting wage needs to go to 17 bucks an hour with the automatic 3% raises every year calculated after that, and then where their years of service are on that scale, and that is where they need to be. I put another document in the packet about investment in personnel. This township is deplorable at investing in personnel. And I don't see it right at the minute, but that document shows the impact on the budget. So Ron brought us some budget figures, right? And then the board, those are the requested column in the budget document, if you're familiar with the budget document. Ron brought us the numbers in the requested column. Then the board talks about it, and those numbers go in, numbers might change or numbers might not change. Those go in the recommended column in the budget. After we adopt the column of the budget, you'll see, which we are required to do, by the way, by March 31st. We are required to pass a General Appropriations Act resolution that appropriates the funds starting April 1st of 2022. No general appropriations resolution gets passed. 12 a.m. at April 1st rolls around. This township is not functioning. The fire trucks don't roll. The ambulance is paid through May. They would work for a month, but then they'll have to be paid. That contract will have to be paid again. No one gets paid starting April 1. The board has no authority to pay anyone anything without the passage of the General Appropriations Act resolution. So let's talk about the impact of these wage increases on the budget. The impact of the wage increases, there was even one wage decrease. This document was in the packet. And oh, by the way, yes, I did fail to put on the Google Calendar that there was a meeting today, but don't rely on the Google Calendar. Okay, people, you go to the Township Board webpage and you find the agenda packet for the meeting. I occasionally am going to forget to put something on the Google Calendar, but it doesn't mean it's on there. And the Google Calendar does not take you to the agenda or the packet. So all that is, you can look on there, you know, you might see that there isn't a meeting, but you should always go to the township board page to verify if there's a meeting or not. I'm not perfect. I'll probably forget it another time too. I'm not going to be raked over the coals for that. I'm sorry. It was just a mistake, and I've been super busy lately.
It's our third meeting this week.
Huh?
It's our third meeting.
It's our
this week.
third meeting this week. Yeah, and it was just set on Monday. So anyways, back to the impact on the budget for this year. First of all, the board, like I say, if people had been attending all the budget work sessions, they would know what the state of the budget is. We are no longer operating at some $463,000 deficit. Those are not the latest figures, okay? And you would need to know there is a reason for adopting an operating deficit. When we're budgeting, we are not budgeting every dollar that we have, okay? And so every year, if you look in the budget document, I'm just going to show you this real quickly here. If you look in the budget document here for just the general fund, okay, and you look at the prior year actual column, I don't remember what the budget deficit was for that year. We had an operating deficit. We've adopted an operating deficit every single year that we've budgeted. This is my 10th budget. There's nothing wrong with an operating deficit, because what you're doing is you're spending down money that was left over from prior budgets. It's not a proper function of government to be sitting on a pile of the taxpayers' cash, okay? It's better off in your piggy bank than it is in ours. Now, that doesn't mean we're going to spend right down to the last dollar, right? We don't do that. But we also do find, for instance, I know that in the 2020-2021 budget year, we had an operating deficit. I don't have that operating deficit right with me. But what happened that year is that we took in $557,925 in total revenue. Flip to page 7 of the budget worksheet for the general fund from the 3/7 meeting, and we spent $552,345, which left us $5,580 in the black for 2 budget cycles ago. Okay, so we didn't dip in to the operating deficit that year, even though that money is sitting in what we call fund balance. Okay, if anybody wants to come in sometime and get a better explanation of this, I'd be happy to have you make an appointment and I'll go over it with you. Last year, we in the general fund adopted our initial operating deficit was $193,817. I can assure you, hey, we have way more than that in the fund balance of the general fund. We amended the budget and the operating deficit did increase by $40,000. However, I can tell you that we'll see where we're at the end of this year. But right now, I believe we have dipped into the operating deficit by $132,746. That's through March 4th. So with 27 days left in the fiscal year, we've still got $100,000 of the operating deficit that we haven't dipped into. Some of that, yes, there will be another month of expenses, okay, with payrolls, paying bills, yada, yada. But it's not going to be $100,000. So we are not going to have in this fiscal year consumed all of the operating deficit either. The current operating deficit that we have, well, we've changed a few little numbers on March 7th, the last time we met on the budget. But we took $100,000 out of the operating deficit. And it's close to an operating deficit of $217,186, which is less than last year's operating deficit. And that includes all of these wage increases in the general fund, the fire fund, the park fund, which remember, the park fund, we're not spending your money in the park fund. The park fund gets no taxpayer dollars at all. The park fund is for the revenues and expenses of Whitewater Township Park alone. Okay, that fund gets zero of your taxpayer dollars, zero. And it's been that way since I've been here. Okay, and so the only money that the Whitewater Township Park gets are user fees. So if you don't use Whitewater Township Park, if you don't camp at the park, if you don't boat at the park, if you don't buy wood or ice or fire starters or dump your RV out there, you're not supporting that park out there. Okay, none of your tax dollars are going to that park. That park exists on user fees. That park has been managed in a fiscally responsible manner for the entire time I've been here. And that park has been able to have excess revenue over expenses to the point that we have done lots of projects out there, lots of improvements to the park, and we have more we're going to do. That brings in more campers and more revenue. So that park out there is being sustained and is available to anybody in Whitewater Township Park at exactly zero cost to the taxpayers. You are paying for money that's spent at Tobico, Lossy Road, Battle Creek Natural Area, and High Prairie Park, because those four parks to speak of have no revenue. Okay. Couple pavilion rentals a year at High Prairie Park. The other parks, there's no cost to use them at all. And this last year, we did get some batting cage fees, which are by donation only. So we have that very nice batting cage over there, and people are becoming aware of it, starting to use it. But our teams over there, our youth teams, they don't pay to use it if they're over there practicing, right? So anyways, the investment in personnel over what was requested in Ron's budget in the general fund is $18,450. Most of that going to the deputy clerk and the deputy treasurer, and it's well deserved. Then we have $30,915 fire fund investment in personnel. I wish all of you had been here at the fire where the budget meeting on 2/9 when we talked about the fire fund. So we did a lot for the firefighters at the fire fund budget meeting. The chief, right now, training wages, hours spent on training are paid at I'm sorry, could we have it quiet, please? Hours spent on training are paid at $15 an hour in this budget year. Responses are paid at $18 an hour. Per the person who's managing the fire department, that's Chief Flynn, and we don't micromanage the fire department for the chief. Chief Flynn is well qualified. He requested that training wages go to 17 and response wages go to 20. Boom, done deal. If he had asked for more than that, I would have said, let's do it. Okay, he didn't ask for more than that. What we did do is we added $8,000 to what he requested to cover the training wages, the increase in the training wages. Then we went beyond that and we established a new line item, 709, on-call wages, because the chief needs some more people to commit to being available to respond. He's found that sometimes all of his firefighters are out doing their own thing and some of them aren't even around and he's the only one responding. Well, we don't want that. We can't just have the chief be the only person responding, but these people have to be around, okay? They don't have to be at the station, but they have to be, the rules for this are going to be that they will have to be within such a radius of the fire station. Likely that's going to include their home, okay? They don't all live in the township. And they, of course, won't be able to be drinking or smoking marijuana or doing hard drugs or something like that, right? Anyways, we put $21,000 in the budget for on-call wages. So that, along with the 3% chief's raise, because we appreciate him so much, and his assistant chief, he never asks for it, but I insist, and the board does too, that he gets a 3% raise every year, so he's not going backwards too. Okay, here again, if
Can you
the
wrap
chief,
it up, please?
yeah, I will soon. Everybody else got to talk as long as they wanted to.
Not this long.
Well,
Yeah,
well,
and it's becoming
I'm sorry.
insulting,
Well,
Cheryl.
I'm sorry.
It's very
I'm
insulting.
sorry. Please stop. I'm letting people know things that they don't know.
Well, get to the point. For crying out loud. It's been a half hour.
I've been getting to the point.
Well, the people in the public asked the question and all she's doing is answering it.
Yeah, that's right. So
I mean, I don't think we
anyways,
should be
all
talking
of
back and
these
forth with the people
investments,
in the township hall right now.
what's that?
Maybe we should stop talking
I
to the
wasn't.
people in the hall.
Was
Yeah.
I?
Okay, I'll direct my remarks to the board. But anyways, I'm just explaining, I guess, why all of these wage increases are necessary. And it's through the board's epic failure of not addressing these deputy wages, except for $1 an hour in 9 years, that we are in this situation. And if we had to go out and hire deputies today, we'd be looking at least $17 an hour. Thank you, and thank you for listening.
I have some questions.
Heidi, do you have anything to say?
I do. Cheryl, you've been here 10 years. And you're just figuring this out now? Wow. More dysfunction for me to sit here. Sorry. So if we don't pass the budget, don't say people don't get paid. Because if they don't get paid and we pass a budget the next month, they still get the money that they lost. Am I wrong, Ron?
I don't know. Never been here before.
Okay. And that's something we might have to figure out. My other question to you, Cheryl, is when you came here and you looked and you said, what? Why didn't you do anything about it? For 10 years, you've almost had all the votes all the time. Why now, when we are in such a bad situation economically, not the board or the township, but, you know, I don't even know how to start this. First of all, I'm gonna tell you about part-time employees. Okay, when the first company I went to work for, it was part-time. We were guaranteed 17 hours a week. That was it. We did get a few benefits. However, if you went out today and you wanted to work full or part-time, there would be a small selected places you could go and get benefits with part-time pay. Now, the deputy position is appointed. So it doesn't matter who you or Della or Ron bring as their deputy. We have to support it. because you get to appoint your own deputy. So with that being said, you still went 10 years, did nothing, but we got to do it now. Cheryl, why do we have to run to the finish line constantly with everything you start? I can't do any more than 3% because there are a lot of people out there that are paying the taxes and they're okay with the 3% because they know government always gives 3%. They might not be getting a raise at all. In fact, they might not even have a job. Now, if we went through, I could understand bumping some of this pay to these, extremes, if some people would consider. But these people this was the only place you could go and not wear a mask. So it's not like they went through any trauma or anything because we didn't have any here. So I'm having a really hard time understanding why now, Cheryl? Why, after 10 years, are you correcting a mistake that you should have been correcting in the last 10 years? So I'll have to read what happens if we don't pass the budget. That's all I got.
Can I say something? Heidi, I'm just a little confused
Why are you confused?
because of some of the statements you made.
Okay, what?
I'm saying it's important that we get it caught up because it's been neglected. You've just said it's important to get it caught up because it's been neglected for 10
It
years.
is, but it's
And you
appalling that
wanna
we
know
waited it
why
right now.
after- I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I don't mean to be talking the same time.
No,
you
that's all
are.
right.
I don't feel it's a run to the finish line. I feel this is something that it's not comfortable talking about.
It isn't.
This is
isn't.
not fun to have meeting after meeting about this. But the fact is that it has been over 10 years. And the reason I think, and I've said this before, the reason I think it hasn't even been looked at is because Cheryl and I have been very fortunate to have the same people.
I
If I had
understand.
lost somebody after the
I
first few
completely
years,
get that. Now I have a question for you. When's the last time you did a review on your deputy?
I do a review with her all the time.
No,
It's a
in writing,
constant-
in a
I-
folder,
You don't
documented.
do that. That's not a function that you do. I've never been statutorily required to do it. So why would I automatically do it? I do it on an ongoing basis.
Okay,
You realize that if something happens to me tomorrow, Lois has to step in
I get that. I
and she
get
has to
that.
know every aspect of my job. And there's a lot. Straight through the auditing with the auditor, she has to know how to do it. I've been very fortunate to have the same deputy that has learned with me and has grown. Not everybody's going to have that.
I completely get that.
So I think the
It's hard to
reason why
spend-
it got ignored for 10 years is because we weren't hiring anybody new and we were not looking at that starting wage.
Okay, let me ask this question. Are they leaving or something and we don't know about it and that's why we're doing this?
Well, who, am I going to run next time? Is Lois going to stay if I don't run? Am I going to get hit by a car and she has to take over for me? And she says, I don't want to do that. So now you're looking for a new deputy and a treasurer. Then what? I'm just saying you brought up some questions and I'm just trying to
I get
put a
it.
little light into why.
Okay, do you know if we don't pass this budget, if it's retroactive pay? Like, in other words, if you go a month without pay, do you guys get paid if we pass it on like May? Do you get paid retroactively?
I have not looked that up, Heidi, but I remember from budgeting classes that we took through MTA that you can't even incur hours if you don't have your appropriations budget.
That's
passed.
exactly right.
So people can't even work.
No.
So if they can't work to accrue wages, then it's not retroactive because they're not working. So I guess.
No
if-
wages retroactively because there's no working.
That's what I remember, but if you've got something else there that says differently.
It's probably in the budget book.
So listening to everything that I've heard, I disagree with a lot of things Clerk Goss said. I have a number of issues that I'm going to shy away from. But one thing I do want to address is this feeling that we're behind somehow. Okay?
Sure.
So Cheryl, you disagreed with what I said regarding what we currently pay our people. And everybody here seems to want to focus on the starting wage, which to me, because I don't have a candidate in front of me and I can't understand his or her skill set, I think $13 to $15 an hour, depending on what kind of raise we end up with, I think that's totally appropriate. Because you're giving me a box that doesn't even have a name. I don't even know what this box looks like. I don't know what their talent is, nothing. And you're asking me to say, hey, I'm going to pay $17 an hour for that. I'm not gonna. I won't today, won't tomorrow. And I don't care if it's March 31st or April 31st. I'm not going to pay a certain amount for an undisclosed value. Additionally, we agreed that the deputy clerk was moving into her 10th year. So she currently gets a wage of $16.55 an hour. She'll be moving to $16.96. Well, then you should have, if you shake your head no, Cheryl, you should not have agreed to this in our earlier budget sessions if you felt the information was wrong. So if she's not going into that, so be it. Currently, I have it recorded that Lois is going to be moving into her 13th year. So she's currently paid at a rate of $17.99. That's before any raises. Okay, so that might be a touch low. But I think we can address that with a 3% raise that gets them to more than $20.50 an hour. 3% raise, I think, is a national average. We can go a little above. Okay. And additionally, the information supplied in tonight's packet certainly indicates that those wages that we stated, $16.50 to $17.99, are really close to what other entities are paying.
Okay, but.
Not dollar for dollar,
I know, I get
but
that.
really
And-
close.
And you made an interesting point. You said that we're focusing on the starting wage, but then you bring in my deputy's wage. Our deputies' wages, our
Yeah.
current deputies.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to make anything personal, just the
Right.
current personnel we have.
Yeah.
Is at what everybody else is starting their people at.
Yeah.
And they've got how many years of experience?
That's not true. The county is at $15.94 this year. That's what this document says. And so there's 6 steps to get the,
$16 an hour.
there are, according to Bonnie, there are 6 steps to get to the top of the pay scale.
So let me ask you a question.
But they also get
Are-
COLA raises.
Okay, let me
But
ask
that's
you.
what our 3% is. That's what we've determined all along. We've agreed that they're not merit-based. So if a raise is not merit-based, provide me a definition of why we even give 3% a year. Answer me that.
That's what we agreed to do. And that is what the prior wage scale, when we took office here, that is what the prior wage scale had written right on the bottom, 3% annual increases.
And so they didn't label it cost of living or COLA,
Mm,
but I'm asking you to tell me what it is. We've already said it's not merit-based. It's
I
also
think
written on
of
the
it as
bottom.
cost of living.
Sure.
I do.
Yeah,
But let me ask you a question, Ron. So now you're saying, because I know at one point you said 15, raise
Yeah.
it from 13 to 15. Now, maybe I got this wrong, but at the very beginning, you said you don't want to do that now
No,
either.
I don't. I will not support. Originally, I was recommending a 10% increase. And how I arrived at that is I believed at the time I made that document up, cost inflation hadn't yet really took a hold. And so I was assuming a 7% inflation rate plus our 3% annual cost of living. And I came up with a 10% number. I was corrected in one of the meetings that the inflation rate had been properly calculated at 7.5%. And so understanding that time goes on and, lots of things changed globally to change that number. So I thought, okay, I could be talked into 15%. And then Cheryl provides these documents. And I'm thinking, we're right where we need to be. This is just proof positive that we're right where we need to be.
Absolutely not.
Gasoline's $4.25 a gallon, and we're gonna see $5 a gallon. Inflation rate is going
Going
up.
up.
It's not just at the gas pump, it's at the grocery store, it's in your electricity, it's in your propane bills. Everything is soaring. And again, we are not just talking about our current deputies. We're talking about a starting wage for somebody brand new. We've raised the rates on everybody, but we're not going to for the deputies. That's like saying, we don't value you. We value everybody else, but the deputies deserve nothing. I don't understand that line of thinking.
Well,
I don't.
Then just to make sure that everyone is treated equally, I say that even the boards and commissions that we've raised from like $70 to $90, we just had 3% of them too. Everybody gets a flat 3%, one and done. And if we don't like that, then I'm happy to stay where we're at. And I'm also very committed to when, if the time comes that we have to hire a new person for any position, that we evaluate that person on their merits, on their core competencies that they bring to the job. I learned in our last budget session that the deputy clerk doesn't make certain journal entries. I'll bet they're supposed to do every facet of the job.
She
So-
can do it. She
But
doesn't
you
because
said
we split
she
the
doesn't.
duties,
You said she doesn't.
but she's capable of doing it.
Taylor,
And-
my
and so
deputy
what
is
about-
trained on
hold on.
everything,
I believe that.
but
I believe that.
we do split duties.
I've seen that. I've
Yeah.
firsthand witnessed that. But I'll bet Therese couldn't do a park reservation.
She is not a park employee.
No, neither are you, but you handle
I
lots
am
of
a park employee.
reservations. And
said
the
I am a
clerk,
park employee.
and you're a park employee.
She's the
I'm the
administrator.
Parks and Rec administrator.
Interesting.
Very interesting.
So, but
Is this
still,
news to you?
no, not actually.
Shouldn't be.
No,
It's
not-
a
not news, but it's good that
confirmation.
You admitted it.
It's a confirmation though.
It's always been that way.
So the point is that the clerk's office is doing those online reservations. Teresa isn't going to do that.
The clerk's
Teresa
office,
isn't going to do, no, I'm speaking.
Okay.
Teresa isn't going to do any of the notices. I'll bet you. Teresa doesn't even have a log on to the website.
no, she doesn't, but she doesn't need one. Okay,
But the
there's other
clerk's
people here.
responsibility are the notices. I've got lots of documentation from you claiming you are the only one responsible. And you
The
alone
clerk is.
will make sure that they are accurate.
Well, that's my job to do that.
Precisely right.
Right.
But Therese can't do it. So
And, well,
if she's been here 9 years, I would expect those core competencies to be checked, that there be a written documentation that this person is trained on that. And you're telling me that they're not.
we split the duties in my
That
office.
doesn't matter.
And Therese doesn't do any park reservations because Therese doesn't get paid by the park. Therese isn't a park employee. That, when I'm working on the reservation system, I am a park employee, not the clerk. Okay? So that's a separate item. And so.
I'm just gonna say something. In my office, and I know it's in her office, probably even better than in mine. I have written instructions, Ron, for all of my duties. So if something happens, I'm not here, or something happens to me, and Lois has only done this once or twice a year, whatever it happens to be, she can open that book, she can go directly to it. Cheryl, do you
I don't
have
have those
that?
questions.
Yes, we do.
I don't have those core competency questions in your office.
We have a procedures, I have a procedures folder that has procedures for all manner of things in it. So it's not a problem. But I would just say that it's not my failure that the board, that the deputy clerk and treasurer and supervisor wages have only been raised by $1 in 10 years. It's the board's failure. The entire board is responsible for wages, salaries. The entire board is responsible for that. And any person on the board can look at a document and say, you know, we haven't addressed that in a long time. When are we gonna take a hard look at that? And that is every board member's
And
responsibility.
I'll admit, I didn't look at it. When I was working out my budget for the treasurer's office, I calculate in the 3%, what she's currently making, and that's how I do my budget. I'm just as guilty. I never stopped to look at, we haven't addressed the starting wage like we have with the other graded wage scales.
And we are adding these wages to the budget with no tax increase and adopting an operating deficit, probably one of the smallest ones we've ever adopted.
I don't know
So,
about that.
Well, you can
Because
go
I have
back
up-
and look.
I
but-
have updated numbers.
Yeah, well,
And
I
I
have
will say
every
that
budget.
my deputy,
Mhm,
when I needed that person,
mhm.
how much did you pay my deputy?
Your deputy only turned in hours, one pay period.
Yep. And the rest, that person volunteered their time.
That's up to them.
Yes, it
Because they
is.
had a full-time job.
That's exactly right.
That's up to them.
It
But
is up to them.
our deputies are not going to work and we are
I
not
don't
going
expect
to
them to.
fill these positions
I don't expect
with
them to.
volunteers. So that.
But those people
that's
are
not going
out
to
there.
happen. No, they're not. Not that are going to take on the duties in the treasurer's office or the clerk's office. Absolutely not. Also, the deputy clerk is required to be an election administrator. That's training over and above. And, you know, no one on the street can even get that training. It's only offered to clerks. Okay, so no one's going to come in unless they came from a different township or something with that thing. They have to be trained on the qualified voter file. They have to be trained on all the election equipment.
You have to
So
run an election if you're not here.
that's right. That's who runs the election if the clerk's not here. And all the duties that go along with running an election, getting election workers, getting all the supplies, making sure all the notices are posted, election commission meeting, all that kind of stuff. Our deputies, we are going to be hamstrung. And also you don't, you know, we've got fire people that if somebody walks in the chief just got a new fire person here not recently. The board doesn't review the applications of fire personnel. The board doesn't review the applications of the deputies, and they automatically start at 17, well, they're going to, April 1st, they're going to automatically start at $17 an hour for training, including getting paid $17 an hour to attend the 240 hours of firefighter 1 and 2, which they have to have.
What are we doing?
Did we just switch?
Oh, she's all.
No,
Job capacity?
I'm pointing out that you said you're not gonna know anything about the deputy. You don't know anything about the fire people that are coming in. But they're getting the 17 and the 20. So you don't know anything about them. So what's the difference?
And I know that Chief goes through an exhaustive research on their background.
That's a completely different employment purpose.
Well,
Cheryl, you get to pick and appoint your deputy. It could be Charlie Brown.
that's what the law says. Heidi.
I get that.
The law also says the board sets the wage.
That's right.
And that's what this board's doing.
And so we're asking the board to
But
set,
you see, this is exactly that attitude right there that just came out. Is what I worry about.
What's
The
that?
board sets this and it's exactly what we're doing.
yeah,
It is.
That's what I'm worried about. But do you realize how you said it and the way you said it,
Well,
Ron?
excuse me.
No, no,
but
I'm
I've
just
sat
saying-
through
I'm
about
just
40
saying-
Point
minutes.
of order, please.
I've sat through
God,
about
I've
40
sat
minutes of
through
lies.
enough of this.
Okay.
40 minutes of what?
Lies.
Oh, please.
I don't get paid enough for 5 hours.
We've definitely documented that deputies in Whitewater Township should be starting at $17 an hour. They should be awarded for their years of experience. And the graded wage scale, as it has always functioned, is a 3% increase annually from wherever the person starts on the scale. And that is how the graded wage scale was set up to function. And also, I will tell you, Therese and Lois both lost a year in their
In the graded wage scale.
in the graded wage
when we went to
scale
this.
when we switched. And it was in 2016 that we added the guidelines to the graded wage scale. And then we changed it that people didn't get their raises on their anniversary. They got it on April 1st. And so they both lost a year in there. I'm not sure exactly how that happened, but Therese is starting her 10th year and Lois is starting her 14th year with the township.
And they're not getting paid at that.
That
Those
is
years.
not what we agreed upon in a previous meeting.
It
We-
absolutely was discussed in a
We-
previous meeting.
we-
Lois started in 2009. She's completing 13 years, going into her 14th year. Therese started in 2013. She's completing her 9th year this month and going into her 10th year.
So if that's true, trees should be paid $16.55 currently, and you have disagreed with me.
I'm
And
telling
then-
you what she is getting paid. What she is getting paid right now is $15.99 an hour because she lost a year when we did all this reworking and adding the guidelines to, and so did Lois. They are going into their 10th and 14th years respectively.
So I don't know where to go with this. I'm going to maintain a 3%. You all would like something different. So I wish we had a fifth member to the board. but we don't. And so here we are. I would be willing to look at something to get the budget passed. Like a short-term proposal until we get a fifth member. In other words, avoiding a stalemate. Otherwise, clean your office out.
Clean your office.
Yeah,
out.
because you won't be paid after March 31st.
Well, our offices aren't going anywhere.
Okay.
Yeah, the building will still be here.
So what type of,
No one, to make it clear, and I think you know this, no one will be paid.
That includes
No
us.
one,
I don't,
because you can't spend money that you haven't appropriated.
I didn't
It
take
doesn't
this
say we don't
job.
work. It just says we don't get paid.
I didn't take this job for the money. I took it for the enjoyment.
I took it for the
We have
people.
fun now.
Yeah, yeah. So are we willing to do something short term? And short term would be, until, let's say,
August.
June 1st.
Oh, I was gonna do August.
August, we could do August. I'm open to that,
Well, we're so busy that we might as well just put it down.
but
the
we're gonna
road,
have an
so-
election in August. And it's gonna be hard,
Yeah,
to
we
be
are.
honest with you. It'll be hard to take money away from an employee. But,
Well, you can't take money away from an employee.
okay, well, then
We'll
short,
get sued over that.
short term then is short term.
60 days.
Well, she says we can't take money away from people, so I'm not going to give them additional money short term and then have the board not take it away from them later on. So
Well, the board salaries can't be changed during their term, so I don't know why that wouldn't apply to employees as well.
well, I
So we're gonna
can't-
have the fire department not responding to fires?
it's a 23-minute response time now anyway. Probably even greater now that we lost an
Another
additional,
firefighter.
another firefighter.
You want to go 3% and revisit it, the meeting in July?
That's an idea, Heidi.
Did anybody ask the deputies if they think they're underpaid? Help me understand this, please.
Okay, but it's not just.
I
I keep
underst-
going back to this. You want to focus on the current people, but it's not just the current people. If that's all we were talking about, we'd do the 3%
Okay,
like we've always done.
All right, but
that's not
Della,
what we're
if you're
really
not
talking
losing,
about here.
right, but if you're not losing your deputies,
But that's how we got in this fix. We ignored it, pushed it down the road, never even looked at it.
okay, but the
So it
problem
needs to be
is,
looked at.
right, but look how we're looking at it right now. Look at the condition we're in. So if our deputies aren't going anywhere, then let's do the 3% and keep this open and keep talking about it. But the problem is you want to set a higher wage for a reason that hasn't existed yet. So you appoint your deputies, you get to pick who they are. But we need to concern ourselves with this right now and raise all these rates because are our deputies going somewhere? Because if they're not going anywhere, then we could talk about this for the next 3 years because they're still going to get their 3% raise every year.
Well, I feel like we're just repeating ourselves.
Sure. So you said if we're in a fix.
Well,
Can you define the fix that you think we're in? So
yeah.
you and I, apparently.
Yeah.
You're looking at the entry level
Mhm.
and I'm looking at today's level.
Right.
Okay.
The
So
fix I'm referring to, Heidi keeps saying your deputies aren't going anywhere.
we don't know that.
We don't know that, but even if that was the case, so why are we in such a
Well,
hurry now?
couldn't we
I don't call not addressing this for 10 years, a big hurry. I call it not doing our jobs for
So-
10 years.
So help,
So I'm just looking at, we need to address the situation of that starting wage. Has nothing to do with the current deputies we have. It has everything to do with future boards coming in and future employees. Are we going to leave this for them to have to raise, to have a bunch of people in the audience saying, we don't understand why you're doing it? Because we've kicked it down the road 15 years without addressing it? I don't think that's fair to the next board, and I don't think that's fair to the new employees coming in or the new deputies, or excuse me, the new treasurer or clerks coming in, new appointed officials coming in saying, how am I going to hire somebody? And I understand what you're saying. They can come and say, oh, this person's got 38 years of experience, but depends on who's sitting there, here and here and here.
I get
If
that,
they value that or not.
but we
You're
have,
leaving it up as a crapshoot. And I guess I'm just one of those kind of people that like it in writing. Here's what it is. This is the way we go. I'm done.
so it is in writing. And yes, it is a crapshoot, but when Luann came on board, I think we started her like at the 5 or 6 year bracket, right?
Yeah.
So that was a board action.
Mhm.
The person was in front of us.
Yep.
We understood what her qualities were because she had actually been volunteering for 5 years.
She'd
or
actually
what-
been doing the job,
Yeah, so I mean, it was kind of a no-brainer, right?
but you won't have that with the new one.
Well, not necessarily. So thinking about the deputy clerk who had decades of payroll experience and decades of
Accounts payable.
employment law. Okay. Those people retire every day. Maybe not in Traverse City and maybe not for 500 people. But the reality is human resource people do retire, and some of them might even live here in Whitewater Township. And so time and place means a lot. And maybe there won't be any retirees here in Whitewater Township when we need a new deputy supervisor.
And that's a great argument for what Della and I are saying. We don't know when people are going to retire. And so we need a starting wage, a meaningful starting wage, a starting place that's reasonable in today's market. Wages are going up in today's market. That's part of the inflation. We need, if my deputy retires tomorrow, currently I have to post an ad at $13 an hour. No one will answer that ad. There's no
You
one
don't
gonna
have to
answer
put,
that
you
ad.
don't have to put the dollar amount in the ad.
no, you don't.
But,
Only.
okay, oh, really? Okay,
No,
but
you
then they,
don't.
well, okay, good. Then
How about a
we
wage
don't-
freeze,
Then we don't
3%?
put the amount in the ad, and they come in and they fill out an application and they ask you what the wage scale is. And
And what
we
would you
have to
say?
tell them it's $13 an hour.
Oh, why would you say that?
Why would you say that?
Seriously,
Because that's
you're a
what
bad
it is
interviewer.
right now.
No.
What would I say differently?
Well, wouldn't you give them the range? Why would you
I would tell
automatically?
them that that it's up to the board, and that currently the starting wage is $13 an hour with 3% annual increases. And maybe you'll start at a higher spot, but it's up to the board.
So
But I
why-
will have to tell them that the starting wage is $13 an hour.
Because that's.
So
what
Because
they
that's
get.
what's in the document.
I retract my opposition
To what?
to the wage
There's a
increase.
lot of, there's a lot of
I just,
opposition.
I just
Which one are
retract it
you,
because
which one are you
Yeah.
retracting now?
with that kind of marketing for a job, we won't hire anybody at $50 an hour.
No, we won't.
That's all I'm saying. So, you know,
You
I
want me
wish
to tell
I-
them they're gonna get $50 an hour?
I
Is that what
wish
you're
that
telling me?
we could,
We have to go
come to a
by the
conclusion here.
documents.
yeah, and what's
that
the range
are
of the document,
adopted.
Cheryl? What's
Well,
the range?
I don't know. Let's see, what
Oh.
is it? The 10-year is, the 10-year is 1696.
Right.
Exactly what they're starting at in all these other places,
Yep.
which have benefits along with their.
Not everyone. Not everyone. Matter of fact, just in Traverse City today, I drove by somebody who's advertising for $14 an hour. Matter of fact, I took a picture of a place advertising for $13 an hour. So you say,
68.
I'm sorry?
I make 10.68. Now, that's what I make. $10.68.
Well, I don't know what you do, and I don't know whether that's a fair wage for what you do or not. I do know that skilled labor, which is somebody that would have the skills to create documents, run our payroll software, run our accounts payable software, run our general ledger software, get the training to become an election administrator, stay up to date on all the changes in election law and stuff like that. You're not going to hire them for under $17 an hour starting.
First of all, you're not gonna, election training is a skill that that we as the employer would provide. Lots of employers.
The state only does election administrator training. You have to have election administrator certification.
Who pays for it, Cheryl?
Who pays for it?
Yeah,
Currently, no one pays for it.
so it's free?
It's free.
We don't pay the employee. We haven't, I
Why
I
wouldn't
might
you?
have paid Therese to attend it.
Yeah,
It
why
was a
wouldn't you?
2-day thing
It's in
down
your
in
budget.
Lansing.
That's up to you.
Okay, well, I'm just saying that we're not gonna find people who want to take on the responsibilities of this job for $13 an hour, or even, okay, the 10-year rate right now is $16.96. So they start there and get their 3% raise, and they don't have any benefits to speak of at all. Those were not lies, by the way. All the benefits that we don't have, the
And were
township
those
doesn't
part-time
have those.
employees or full-time employees?
It really doesn't matter, Hailey.
Yes,
We
it
just,
does.
yeah, it really doesn't. You know, no, it really doesn't, because no, it doesn't. I'm sorry.
So, Ron, are you
Not
saying we're
in-
at an impasse and
Yeah,
nothing's gonna happen tonight? Because if that's what's going on, I'd rather just go home.
yeah, me
You know,
too.
that-
I'm
That's-
missing over pile for this.
Yeah, right.
So that's, we understand, we understand. We won't vary from the agenda.
I
that
remember.
That I promise. Oh, good, write it down, because I don't want you to have podium fright again. So,
It's an investment in personnel, just like we're investing in personnel in the fire department.
Point of
We're
order.
investing in personnel we need to invest in personnel in the general fund that hasn't been done, that has been neglected by.
Point of
this
order,
board.
is this a
Excuse me,
commercial?
Heidi. I haven't interrupted you.
But Cheryl, you're saying the same thing over and over again, and we're still sitting here trying to figure out why you don't understand that your deputies are doing okay pay-wise. You're worried about somebody walking in the door. Well, why can't we just do a 3% across the board every year? And when you get somebody and you have a problem because they won't
Well, I
pay
guess
or
we'll
you
find out
won't
what they're
pay,
gonna do. won't
then
we,
we'll
after
figure
we-
it out.
After we adopt a budget.
We're just saying the same thing. so I
Yeah.
know.
We
I
are.
agree.
Look,
and so
look,
let's move on.
I will call for a vote.
Yeah, we don't vote on
Nothing's
this.
gonna happen.
Well,
There's nothing to vote on. It's done at the budget.
we're not there yet. Be patient. Be patient, be patient. So I'm going to recommend that we do a 3% across the board like we normally do. And I would also be in
You mean
favor,
the 3% that they're already entitled to?
I would also be in favor of adding an additional guideline, just to clarify for future boards.
An additional what? I'm sorry, I missed it with the public comment.
Well, why don't you pay attention?
Well, she
I
couldn't
missed
hear
it
people
because
were
somebody was
talking.
talking out here. You said an adding an additional, and I didn't hear the word.
Guideline
Okay,
to the bottom of the form that helps a future board understand that they can modulate throughout the entire scale based upon the qualities of the candidate that's before them. And so really all I'm asking for is that it's decided at the time you put the candidate in front of either this board or the future board. Not a blanket approval before we even meet the person.
the guideline number 9 already says the board reserves the right to start an employee anywhere on the graded wage scale based on experience.
Okay? So it's already there.
I'm good
So
with that,
I
Ron.
just have one question about your comment. You said you're recommending 3% across the board. And I'm simply asking, is that the 3% that they're already entitled to?
Yes. I'm not providing anything new because I believe that we are currently in a good spot with the people that are with us. And I've brought up targeting in the budget several times this year. They're indicating that it's a very effective method to control costs. And so I guess how I would break it down into my words is the squeaky wheel gets the grease. And so if we have a need in your department or one in Cheryl's, we address it then. We have the power to do that. And the benefit is that person is in front of us. We can see what we're going to buy. I don't buy gold online. Do you know why? Because I can't see it. I buy gold that's certified. I can see it. So when my George Washington goes from that pile to that pile, I immediately collect my goods. So, and the other thing is, so let's role play just another month out, 2 months out. Let's say the rain clouds open up and something happens to me or you or whoever, and we have this catastrophic need. We can make an amendment to this decision here tonight and address it at the time of need. It's not like we're really falling behind that far. And if you felt we were really falling behind, do you have an alternate proposal, the 3% COLA that they're currently entitled to? Do you have a number in mind other than 31% that we could compromise on?
At this particular point, I had wrote down before I came in tonight, a $15 an hour. But you right out the gate said you're not doing anything. So I didn't even bring it up. But you did say something earlier that is worth investigating. And I believe maybe somebody in the audience at public comment said the same thing or something similar. I can't remember the exact words. Has to do with the salary wage schedule where we were increasing it for everybody. We don't plan on giving wages increases to some of the people, then we shouldn't be giving it to them either. Maybe we just go back to what we had.
I support
I mean,
that.
I think you said that.
I support that.
I support that.
You know, so.
I mean, it's not what I feel. I feel they deserve more. They're not getting hardly anything. It just shows that we value them. But I don't think you tell one group of employees, we value you, and another we don't.
Totally agree. And don't forget, we did add additional money to pay these people for their training. Now, not only do we pay for the training and pay for their travel, that was always expected. We would do that, right?
Yeah.
But now we actually pay for them to drive wherever they need to drive, take the training, and we pay for them to drive back home.
And we pay mileage.
And
At
we pay mileage
$18
too.
an hour.
I'm sorry?
At $18 an hour.
At $18 an hour. And so we have increased those benefits that I think are meaningful to those people who currently have the want to serve their community. And oh, by the way, we get an extra $50 or $60 while we're doing it.
I'm not saying they think they're making money.
No, I get that.
But it does show that we appreciate them doing the job that nobody else is volunteering to do.
That nobody else is willing to do. I mean, I know firsthand how hard it is to try and find a candidate to fill a seat. Believe me, you hear me make comments to just about everyone who walks in my office and about every phone call that comes into my office. Hey, are you interested in serving on a board or a commission?
I have those conversations quite often myself.
And I appreciate that. But we get one or two hands that meekishly go up, right? So I know how hard it is. So can we come to a compromise?
Can we?
What do you
I
think?
mean, I think compromise is the word of the night.
Okay,
It needs to. I'm all for reasonable. I'm not for nothing. It's not right. It's just not right that we value some employees, but it feels like we don't the others. And I can't get beyond the fact that we haven't addressed it in over 10 years. You know, that starting wage. If we had, we wouldn't be having this conversation tonight.
well, to be honest with you, starting wage even 2 years ago was not much more than $13 an hour, kids. It just wasn't. So we are in unprecedented times. And I understand that, you know, I think we were in a budget meeting when the entire board realized that we hadn't been looking at the wage scale for quite some time. I was present in that board meeting and I did feel embarrassed about that. We just had so many things as a young board going on that was not in our face.
And we had current stable people in place, so we didn't have to think about it. That's been my point.
Yep.
You know, and all I'm saying is we need to do something.
So-
Even if it isn't maybe what Cheryl would like to see, but we need to do something.
How can we sneak up on it?
Yeah.
So you want, I want to get this straight. You don't like the $13 starting thing. Is that where your problem is? You don't like that $13?
And why is that? Do you think I don't like it? I want to
Well,
make
no,
sure you understand where I'm
Oh, I
coming
know where you're
from.
coming from, but
Well,
if you, yeah, because, okay, how would you interview someone? Are you gonna pay them for what they look like? Are you gonna pay them for what they're wearing?
I was in business for myself for over 25 years. I've had to hire, I've had to fire.
Oh, okay.
I've done
All right,
reviews, I've
excellent,
done
excellent.
raises.
Then you know that you do not tell a person a flat rate. You give them, you start with a scale.
That's not necessarily true. They want to know what it is they're going to make an hour. And if
But you
I say
can't
to
tell them that.
them,
You can't tell them that till you've totally interviewed them because you don't know how much experience they
well,
have.
before they ever would get to this board, I'd have done all my research on them. I'd know what their qualities were.
Okay.
Because
So, but
if
you're
I
not,
have to come to you and say, I want to start them out at year 8 because of all the experience they've got, I gotta be able to tell you why.
right?
Yep.
Okay, so then what's the problem of leaving it at 13? What if you get somebody that's just got a high school diploma?
I would never hire somebody for this job that just had a high school diploma, because for one thing, I would spend so many more hours. They would go over the hours me training them. If they don't even know how to type, which a lot of high schoolers don't, how am I supposed to train them for all the technical?
Yeah,
things?
come on, they know how to
Yeah,
type.
if they can sit here and do this, they'd be great.
Okay, I just don't understand why it's so important right now at this moment when we don't know if tomorrow, we could all be broke tomorrow. We don't even know what's gonna happen tomorrow. And you wanna move 13 to 15. You know what? You gotta have a starting and an end. So you're not gonna hire somebody at $13 an hour, Della, because you're not gonna hire somebody that doesn't know how to do anything. So you're gonna hire somebody kind of in the middle,
But then
right?
I'm at the mercy of whoever is sitting here at this board. You don't need that, Della. Too bad.
Well,
And
okay,
that
then you're
kind
not
of
selling
been-
you're not selling the
No,
person
that
you're
kind of
hiring very
attitude
well.
happens. That kind of attitude happens.
It
I'm not
does.
saying you do this, Ron. I'm saying, I don't know who's going to be sitting there,
And
right?
so I'm about to say something and put my foot in my mouth.
Maybe you shouldn't.
I'm going to though, because that's just who I am. We recently had this happen. We recently had your very scenario happen.
So you're saying that it could happen.
Yep. And
Do you see why I
Do-
would
do you
rather
know-
secure it?
do you know what scenario I'm talking about?
If we're talking about appointments, is that what you're talking about?
Appointments of
Anything?
trustees.
Yeah. So I would rather have the people of this community pick the trustee rather than 4 people
Okay,
that
that's fine.
can't get along.
And
Well,
No,
I
no.
shouldn't say it like that have differing of opinions on a lot of things.
you were right first time.
Yeah, should have
You were
known
right
better,
first
babe.
time.
Should have known better.
So, and the point is the only thing the board can regulate by statute for a deputy is the wage. So you bring me the package.
And it leaves it open for a lot of abuse though. And I
Okay.
don't like that. I just like,
Well, remember, the abuse will be committed by the people elected to run this township.
you got that right.
Cheryl?
Well, this is more symbolic than having an effect, but I am rescinding my vote for the additional activities compensation program language to be inserted in the personnel manual. I am rescinding my vote, supporting the $18 an hour wage for way more part-time people than what our deputies are, because we should not be paying $18 an hour to part-time people, right? That's what I'm hearing. We should not be paying $17 an hour starting wage to part-time people. And so we should not be paying $18 an hour to even more part-time people who it was brought to us are going to be paid the $18 an hour to drive to and from training sessions and attend training sessions and whatever other activities are going to
Point
be
of order,
brought.
if she rescinds a vote, it's still a,
It's not even on the agenda.
yeah, I know, so she, I don't know
I'm
why
giving
she's.
her
I-
enough leeway to.
I I'm sorry, please. I'll make whatever comments I want. You don't need to interrupt me. I said at the very beginning, perhaps you didn't hear me, that it's more symbolic than effective. But I am rescinding I guess it's not on the agenda, but it's part of my comments. It's not going to affect the vote. But I can't believe that I'm sitting here listening to an argument about moving deputies up to a $17 an hour starting wage when we've just approved $18 an hour for people that attend one meeting a month at the township hall for them to do additional activities. Just pointing that out. Are we ready to move on to the salary wage schedule? Because I am.
I think we're pretty much done here.
Well, what's on the agenda is to discuss deputy wages and salary wage schedule. So let's follow the agenda.
Perfect. Yep, I'm ready.
The increases that we've talked about and the date of the meeting at which we discussed them is in the packet.
And I move that we strike all of those discussions and we go for a straight 3% pay increase for
Is that a motion?
anyone that was getting a pay increase.
What's your motion?
I didn't say it was a motion.
You said I move.
And so that would then tie into anything that we determine as something that we can agree on. For if we decide that a 5 or a 7% increase gets Delaware, you think we can live with, then that same percentage increase would move to this schedule.
Say that again, Rob?
Yeah.
I just want to make sure I understood
Yep.
what you were saying.
So I understood you to say that we need to have a little more equality between the graded wage scale and the salary scale. So if we move the salary scale up from, let's say planning commission members from $70 to $90 a meeting, let's say that equates out to, has anybody done the percentages on that? So let's
I have
see,
not.
that'd be 20 divided by, I'm sorry? Is it 6.3%? It'd be 20 divided by 70 equals 28%.
29%, 30% increase. Where have I heard that before?
I believe you wrote it down or in your mind.
On a different schedule I
Maybe.
did.
Anyway, complete what you're saying?
So I'm just saying that if we move up the graded wage scale, 3%, 5%, 7%, 10%, 15%, we do the same for this scale. That way we can address the comments that we heard from the public, equality, 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 and we can feel good about it. We don't value their input more than others, which I think was your
That was my
concern.
comment.
And I think that's a valid concern. I didn't think about it.
So are you suggesting
of-
that, for instance, for the Parks and Rec Committee members who get $50 a meeting, that they would get $51.50 a meeting?
What percentage increase is that? 3%. So, yeah,
$51.50.
Yeah.
Okay.
well,
I will say though, that on our, to simplify things.
Mhm.
And in the interest of equality, if you're on a commission or a committee or whether it's advisory or whatever, I think the wages should be the same. The chair should make the same and the members should make the same. We've got, one group making less than the other groups. we standardized the other ones in the past, but we haven't really,
And it was felt that that group was an advisory group.
yeah.
And so I've come to learn that even the planning commission is an advisory group, to be quite honest with you. The ZBA would be different. They actually make a decision that could be argued in court, right?
Mhm.
And the board doesn't have any input on that. Same with Board of Review.
Mhm.
Board of Review members could easily get us into court. And often people do go to the Michigan Tax Tribunal.
Right.
Now, in the past months or years, we've decided not to fight because it cost us $2,500 to save $25. Might as well capitulate. Right.
Yeah.
So, but thinking about that, really the rest of the boards, committees and societies are all advisory. So maybe we drop them all down to 50.
Backwards from what we've done in the years past. That's not like saying.
But I'm willing to compromise.
Then
We
just
don't
leave
care.
them at where they're at. Unless somebody's coming going, I don't like what I'm making, I wouldn't
Well,
open the can.
I don't think it's really fair that, and for the public who might not have this in front of them, most of our commissions make around $70 a meeting for their time. And each meeting probably goes about 2 hours, and there's probably about 2 hours of homework. But we have one committee, the Park and Recreation Advisory Committee, that only makes $50 for that same meeting, and that approximate time investment of about 4 hours. We don't really know why there was a difference.
I think I do.
It was there when we got here, and it's just survived. And we have talked.
When it was created, Ron, they didn't even know if it was going to last, if it was going to be around after the first year, because they had specific things they were going to be looking at only. Well, it's morphed into a whole lot more.
Mhm.
They do a lot of work.
So this falls in line, in my opinion, with that targeting idea that we've worked through in several budget training webinars. And I would be very supportive to bring that body up to $70 per meeting for the general body. And I am in firm belief that the chair does have more work to assemble the meeting, sometimes rearrange things, get different items of information to different members of the body. So I support that there is some grade difference between the chair and just the electorate or the appointment body.
I do too. I think we all do. Because I recognize they do more.
They do. Mhm. So this would be a perfect application of target budgeting. We're correcting something that has been discussed at previous budget meetings before previous years. So I'd be very comfortable to leave the rest of the boards where they're at, all about 70 for the body and 100 for the chairs.
So where's Parks and Rec gonna be?
70 and 100.
Moved it up just
Is
like
that
the
reasonable
others.
with you? I think that takes care of an indiscretion or something we've been meaning to do for quite a while.
Where's Board of Review gonna be?
I have them currently at $70 a meeting. Is that correct?
Yep.
And I have them currently being paid $15 an hour, which likely only apply to the 2 March hearings.
Interestingly, they'll get paid $70 for yesterday's meeting that lasted an hour. And on March 14th and 16th, when they're here for 6 hours, they'll get paid $90. That makes 0 sense, but okay, so we're leaving them.
You've
There's no
supported-
change.
You've
There's no
supported it
change
for
in
the
board of
last
review.
decade.
No, I haven't. No, we've
So-
increased this before.
So we're gonna leave them at
But-
70.
They weren't
and
there when we got
15?
here. No, we've increased them a couple times.
Hey, Ron,
But the
Board of
hourly,
Review.
the hourly differential remains the same, and this is the first time
Oh.
you been appalled by it.
Well, no, I've always noticed that it didn't make sense. I'm
Ron?
asking, is it 70
I'm
and
with you.
15? Are we
I'm-
not?
I'm ignoring the fray.
Okay, come on.
Stop being
Let's-
unprofessional. You're ridiculous.
If we're doing an hourly thing here, are we doing the 3% of what is current to keep it consistent with the graded wage scale? And it's just the straight per diem we're not touching?
I'm recommending no changes in the hourly rate.
Of which body? All of them?
Except for the park and rec, we're bringing them to where everybody else is.
Correct.
Well, I don't agree with that. I think the Parks and Rec should be at 90 and 120, just like the rest, just like we already spent a lot of time discussing where the rest of them needed to go. And that would be Planning Commission, ZBA, Board of Review, the 70. Well, no, we were gonna make that 90 and 16. I think we're going backwards.
In a perfect world, we're
I-
not going, we would be going backwards, Cheryl, but.
There's
we're in a
never
really
gonna be a
bad
perfect world, Heidi.
Oh,
So the wages where the fire chief is, what's listed on there, I'd like to leave those what we actually have proposed already. I'd like to leave them the same. I don't want to touch those. I like the increases we've done. I think it's necessary. We need to leave those.
So before we leave this first page, I want to make sure I understand, because I need to make these notes for the document that's going to budget public hearing. There are going to be no increases in Board of Review, Planning Commission, or ZBA. And Parks and Rec is going from 50 to 70 and 80 to 100 for members and chairs, correct?
That's what I have.
That's what I understand.
The election wages need to stay where we put them, 16 and 18. It's ridiculous to ask election inspectors to work for $13.50 and $15 an hour.
So Ardella, thinking about the fire department. This is going to be an ongoing discussion that we have to engage in the upcoming year.
Yeah.
These values are low. And I don't know that money will solve the problem.
According to Fire Chief Flynn, that's what he feels.
We can even look at the city of Traverse City and we can look at Metro.
Mhm.
They've paid big dollars to have studies done that concluded something similar to Chief Flynn. I don't know what motivates them.
Right, and they have shortage and they pay a whole lot more than we do,
Right.
and they have benefits.
Yep, they sure do. So there's something undiscovered yet in fire.
You know, Ron, I think you and I, probably everybody in this room remembers back in the day when being a part of your community's fire department was a big deal.
Mhm.
And that sense of place is not there anymore. I don't know how you turn that around. I don't know how you motivate people with that mindset, but it definitely, anybody that's going to be a firefighter or an EMT person, they have a special way of thinking. They've got a certain way of thinking. And it's in the, I don't know if you call it in their DNA. I don't know how you really state that, but it's definitely a call to duty more than it is money wise. I mean, they like to make a living off of it, but it's more of a call to duty,
Yes,
much like joining any of the armed forces.
yes.
And that has to be recognized and respected. I just don't, I mean, I think this is a good start. If Chief Flynn comes back and says, hey, we need more, I think we address it then.
And I concur, we leave it as Chief Flynn presented. Moving on to election inspection. I think this is another perfect use of the targeting tool. So I've had an opportunity to talk to various townships, and election inspectors are hard to find.
Yes,
And
they are.
they can move between townships, which is something Cheryl introduced me to. I didn't know that. But it is true. And so I believe this is proper use of target budgeting. And I would concur with the numbers that Clerk Goss has recommended, 16 and 18. Is that still a good recommendation, Cheryl?
Yep. May need to go up again next year.
Reasonable, Heidi? Reasonable, Cheryl?
Yep.
One more run.
Let's get her.
Hmm?
Let's get her done.
Okay. Where are you at? Are we at the coin level yet?
Are we
Flip
at the
coin?
punting level?
Flip a coin?
We're at the 5-minute discussion of ARPA funds.
Excellent.
No, I don't believe so.
No, Ron and I don't agree on that. We think there's more to talk about.
I think there is.
Okay.
What's that?
Well,
You're asking me to be a good steward.
mhm.
And I make that commitment to not just you, but the rest of the township.
Right. I get
And
that.
so I believe that anyone filling an elected post would do the same. Yep, you and I don't see eye to eye on about 99% of the things.
That doesn't mean we can't work together.
But you know what? Right here is the important part,
Mhm.
and we're doing it.
Yep.
So throw out a number. I threw one out.
A number for what?
For starting. Or percentage. What are
Percentage.
you looking for?
Let's look at percentage. Yep. Because I've already made a commitment that we can go from 1 to however detailed that scale goes, depending on the package you bring.
Keeping in mind that I'll probably come back next year and argue for an increase. Because, you know, I feel like that's,
Just for the starting part we're talking about, this is for like somebody walks in and this is what you're gonna start.
well, we already know that the current people are getting a 3%, right?
Yeah, we already know that.
But we've never added a 3% to the starting or 6% or anything, at least not in 10 years. We know that. We've already discussed that to death.
So this is a blanket
I get it. So what
percent
do you got?
increase that will affect starting wage
Mhm.
as well as our current deputy wage.
Yeah, it'll go
Okay.
right, it'll go up the
It'll-
scale that we
Yep,
have.
it'll go completely up the scale.
And
So if we were looking at a 10% raise, we would take the starting wage of $13 an hour and move it to $14.30.
You know, it's not what I want, but it's what I'm willing to compromise on. Because I will tell you, I will come back next year and we'll have another conversation about it.
I got my gloves on.
Okay? So
Why not 15?
15%? I don't think I'm gonna get. I would love
Cheryl, you
to.
gotta compromise here. Come
But I don't
on.
think I'm gonna get it. And
Okay, well,
I believe we need to start somewhere. I mean, Ron, you started right out in the very beginning saying you'd do 13 to 15.
I did.
So
Yeah.
I don't think.
Because I felt the information coming, the verbal information coming from the other board members was correct.
Mhm.
But now proof, we're not that far out of the water. We're just not.
If we're not that far out of the water, if we're talking about what our current people
Yep,
make.
absolutely,
So
absolutely.
you gotta compare the,
Well, that's
Totally
what
agree.
he's saying.
Totally
Throw out a
agree.
number. Come on,
Totally
Dylan.
agree.
I
And
just
so
did.
I
What was it,
will,
14 something?
in the interest of compromise, I had 7.5 in my mind.
Yeah.
But I'll do 10. If we can get it done.
Better than nothing. And we need to get this done. I don't want to shut our government down. Hey, as long as we're talking about it and you're being so dang generous. Where's my 3%?
You know-
Raise in how many years?
Yeah, last year, I believe there was a raise
Mm,
and I think we took a little bit of heat for it.
mhm. We get a
2
raise
years
every
ago.
4 years is usually how it's done.
We do it in the presidential years. It was done in
Mhm.
20.
Doesn't mean we always have to do it that way.
It does not, but that's the way it's been done. Simply stated.
So are we going to increase the current 13 to, let's see, your list only goes out to 10 years, right? And so this would be grade. So did we, help me understand, help me remember,
Park Ranger, we're gonna switch that down to grade 3. So it would leave deputies.
alone?
Yeah,
Yep, I think that's what my notes seem to indicate to me.
yeah, so Historical Society would be grade 2, Park Rangers are grade 3, and then deputies are in the 5. And just so everybody is clear, the grades have nothing to do with years of experience. It's
Right.
just how we're bracketing them.
So that'll make our pay range from $14.30 to $20.38, as I calculated out. On the current
But
one.
they'll be on the graded wage scale where their years of service are.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yep, so that'll be the range. Reasonable?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's getting us there.
Okay,
Well, then what you're gonna have on the graded wage scale is then you're gonna have a grade, are they grade 4?
nope, nothing else changing, Cheryl. They're grade 5. Heidi, what are your thoughts about a 10% increase?
I'm okay with that.
Is that a compromise you
Yep,
can live with?
Yep, because I was at 5, 5, and 5, so I'm good.
What do you mean you're at 5, 5,
I
and
was
5?
I was gonna compromise with the 5 across for the next 3 years, but
Oh, I see.
just
All
something
right.
different. But
I'm sorry.
No
That maybe
worries.
Ardella and I focused on
hey,
one
no,
another
no,
too
no,
much.
no. I lead, man. If you guys were going at it, a good leader sits here and just watches.
Okay,
I don't control.
So you're saying 1430 is gonna be the starting wage for deputies,
would you like
and that's at grade 5.
them all calculated out?
Did
No,
you
I'll
just
do
give
it.
her a printout?
No, I'm sure Cheryl will upgrade this for our public hearing. Right?
I would think so, yep.
Well, I was simply pointing out that grade 5 is a lower starting wage than grade 3, which would not typically be how a graded wage scale would
Well,
work, but. Okay,
And don't forget, grade 3 is from a non-public fund. 50, not 50, I'm sorry.
a non-taxpayer supported fund.
Yes.
And I guess I don't think of the grades actually, Cheryl, as typically, from low to high. I think that across this way through the years, because we've changed. It may have started that way, but we've changed how we've moved them around and stuff. So I don't think of it that way. I just think of them as different categories. Category 1, 2, 3, 4. Not that they're.
I think this is a spin-off of a federal sheet.
It's been around since before you guys, Carol used
Yeah.
it. We didn't have all these instructions and guidelines on the bottom that we've developed over the years.
But I think
But
they're
it's
useful.
good.
I think they're useful.
Because other people coming in behind us will have a guideline to go from, where when this board started working together, we didn't necessarily have any of that.
Okay, where are we at? Are we at the added business item?
Right, me.
Okay,
Okey dokey. I called Bird, Cotter, and Bishop, the CPA. Now, Ellie, you got an email from Ron on Wednesday, February 16th. And it's 1, 2, 3, 4 pages long. And I didn't find this email till after I called this woman and had a very nice conversation with her. What's going on right now is exactly register. You have 3 steps. You have account administrator, appoint a contact for reporting, and an authorized representative for reporting. Now, she went into this whole thing. She said, she even highlighted it for you. And all you got to do is you take this email and you put them together. I think you might have missed one step with her conversation in mind. But she said they haven't even thought of what they were doing, how they're going to even come up with a contract or how much it's going to cost or anything, because they don't know the end result yet from the government. So she said that she would email me when that time comes. And there's also, I mean, I think these 2 pieces of paper, or these 7 pieces of paper, will really help you.
Heidi,
Yes.
everything you've talked about, I told you at the last meeting, I've done it all.
Okay.
It's all set up. I
Not,
talked to Derek at the
Okay.
same place,
okay.
went through everything I talked to him about, everything I did, all the steps. And he said, the reason why I'm not seeing what's in the picture, in the guideline you're talking about, is because the federal government doesn't have it completed yet, and it's not even available to us. Keep checking back.
Okay.
That's why I can't get to the next step, Ron. Because where the 3 little lines are, you're supposed to click on it, and the next step for getting to the forms is supposed to drop down. That's not what drops down.
Okay.
So just let me finish. He said that keep looking at it. And if it should be up shortly, if we get to the end of the month and we can't figure it out, call him, and that they will fit us
That's
in.
what
They
I
are
was
going to
gonna
do
say.
it. But everything you've got there, I've already done. And I
Okay.
gave you guys that update at our last meeting.
I get it, but you told me to call and find out how did it. Cheryl, get a contract, get this, get that, get that. Well, I have the same information you got for an hour with the poor woman. And she's gonna keep emailing me with updates. And I said I would forward the updates to you.
I appreciate that.
And
Thank
this
you.
woman isn't even charging me anything, and she's still sending me more information next week. So all I'm asking you to do is read what she gave me, because the 2 emails are different. And I kept trying to tell her what you were having a problem with. And she said, well, there's supposed to be 3 different people. Well, that kind of confused me more. So I said, could you just send me all the rules and what to do? And she said, okay.
If you want to
So
pass those on to me, I'm
I'm gonna
perfectly
give,
fine
I
to look
have
at
one
them.
for each of you, but sorry, Cheryl, no contract because they haven't even read one. I
So,
feel like I just did work for nothing, but okay.
Yeah, but Heidi, I gave you this exact same
I
report last time.
understand, and that's as far, I got the exact same as far as you got, except the lady went step by step. She said, give this to the treasurer and just tell her maybe something's not working for her. And then she said, we have nothing else. And she's head of the whole thing, according to what the lady told me before she gave me to her, that she's in charge of the whole CPA thing for the ARPA funds. So that's all I got.
thank you, Heidi.
You're welcome.
And just a quick update from my midday. We had lunch with a couple of different supervisors, and one of our guests was a representative from the governor's office. She helped us understand how the federal dollars that are available outside of ARPA are actually going to use the same ARPA application. Right? So this is all good news, right? All good news.
Sure,
all
I'm
good
familiar
news.
with it now.
But I must have taken her card out of my pocket.
Oh, is
And-
that what you were looking for?
Yeah, that's what I was looking for. So she has offered to get the governor's office involved, not as, muscle, but as
Get on this.
muscle, right?
If you're requiring that we have to have this by a certain date,
Correct.
you need to make the website available to do the reporting, and it's not available.
I asked
'Cause
her
it-
about that date and she started laughing. She said, oh, no, it should be a 24. I'm like, okay.
Because at least one other supervisor indicated the same as you, that the information we're supposed to see on the next window isn't there yet. So I think
It
we're
would be
right
nice
there.
if somebody would have told us that.
Well, that's right. It
Or
would
a
have
little thing come up and says, not ready yet.
not ready yet, or 404 or whatever that error message is. But the MTA and all the webinars are saying, go now, go now, go now.
Uh-huh.
And so maybe we just listened a little too well. So
When is it going to be decided? I mean, it's not really on the agenda tonight, I guess. Are we deciding that Baird, Cotter, and Bishop is going to be doing our ARPA reporting, or
No,
when?
we didn't.
No.
No, there's no
Okay.
decision there.
matter of fact, everything that I heard today is that if you haven't spent any money, then your reporting is going to be extremely minimal.
Yeah, you'll be doing
It
just
would be
little.
very nice to have that confirmation, being able to look at what it is they actually want you to put in there. Because you've seen my book.
Mhm.
I printed out every document
Right.
every guidebook they've had, and I've been through them all. There is no screenshots of what you're supposed to be seeing.
That's another thing she was. There's nothing, that this is all I have. I'm like, okay.
So I think we're on the right track. And if we're not, we're not the only one on the track. But that is how the first set of mistakes guided people. If you remember the process correctly, we all made that same mistake or similar
All the
mistake.
steps they've allowed us to do, I'm up to date on. We're ready to go whenever they decide to open the site up.
So then
Excellent.
you're going to do the reporting.
I'm
ARPA
going,
reporting.
this is what I will tell you. I will look at it. I will see what it looks like. If I think it's beyond my skill set, I will let you know and we will hire it out.
There you go.
Because
And she's
I'm not
sending
gonna,
me a bunch more
yeah, I'm not gonna be the reason we have to give back that money because I don't know what I'm doing. My ego is not that big.
Right.
Well, Ardella, she said that it was gonna, I said, how hard is this really gonna be? Do we really need a CPA? And she's like, no. I said, oh, thank you very much, but send me all your information anyways. She seems to think that it's gonna, once they get it set up officially, that it should be just.
That's what they said about applying for it.
Yeah.
Well,
And it
that's
was
what
as
she
clear
said,
as
and
mud.
she's on page 396,
So,
because we talked about that too.
Okay. Thank you for the update, Heidi.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yep. And I'm glad that kind of 3 people arrived at the same intersection there. Mhm.
Yeah, we've been triple checked.
Yeah, I think so. Okay.
I was actually very relieved to find out it wasn't me.
Well, let's not.
I
go that
just
far.
couldn't get
Let's
it.
not go that far.
Hey, come on, we're playing nice now.
I couldn't sign it in the right spot if I remember correctly. So. All right, we are at board comments and discussion. Are we all talked out?
Yep.
So to everybody's favorite spot on the
Well, I'll take
agenda,
my coat off
the
here.
second public comment. So let's start here in the room. If there's anyone who would like to make a second public comment, please make your way to the podium.
Linda Slopesma. I have a couple comments just about the budgeting process, and hopefully there will be something that's useful to you all in this. So I worked in professional large corporations for over 30 years. Budgeting is very important. It's very important for it to be accurate. I understood the discussion that you folks shared about looking at prior year actuals and that you had budgets before. In fact, it was a common practice for you. However, I should reflect upon the prior year actuals to see that typically there wasn't a lot of damage done to the reserve funds. So I hear what you're saying. I would tell you having an inaccurate budget process, I think, is not a real smart thing to do. And in the business world, that's called an insane business practice, and it's not tolerated. So I would suggest you get rid of your inaccuracies so that you know where you're going. It's particularly important from what I can observe here, because you only look at your accounting as a group. You look at your budget performance quarterly, which any normal business would never let 30 days go by without a very specific discrete accounting and then an adjustment process as needed to stay on target. That, of course, is people that are held accountable for financial performance. Now I'd like to change gears to compensation and some of the comments that were made. I found it very enlightening. I learned a lot listening to it. But one thing I would like to tell you is that not everybody's compensation is done the way yours is. You guys probably already realize that. In the business world, over the last good 25 years, when we've had low rates of inflation, typical raise funds were between 2 and 3% every year, maybe an occasional 3.5. An average employee would get somewhere around 1.5% each year if they had average good performance and stayed in the same job function. A really outstanding employee might pick up 4% if they stayed in the same job function. I understand, looking at your rules, that employees don't have evaluations as part of the process. But the reason I'm sharing this information with you is the fact that you're baking in 3% is actually very generous of you. And I understood the discussions too about being concerned about a person's experience level and how you're judging that and entering them into the pay scale. But one thing I would leave you with to think about is, if you're concerned about somebody's compensation, you, I believe, have the ability to somehow reevaluate them and address it individually. But you should be looking for specific things like excellent quality, flexibility, learning, new and better ways of doing things, improved output, meaning they are doing more work with less charged hours to you, and consistently initiating and implementing significant cost reductions. I believe one of the public comments early on today from Vicky indicated that nobody's business can afford to dish out even 3% year over year without discrete improvements in business practices. And adding more labor these days is never the answer. You should be adding technology.
Anyone else?
I did remember, I get brain fog once in a while, so it is what it is. Diane Mack, again at the podium here. And a couple of things, I appreciate the opportunity to come here tonight because I have really been enlightened, especially how my representatives get along. And there were some good things and there were some bad things. Sometimes it was like children. Sometimes I felt like I was a child being reprimanded sitting in the audience here. And I don't think that's the appropriate way to talk to people, especially the taxpayers. As far as the place that I went to look for the notice of the meeting tonight was on the Whitewater Township website. And that's where I think most of the taxpayers would go. And I believe it's extremely important to have updated information on that area. And another thing is that I would love to be more involved. I've thought about it for years, but I cannot attend any meetings during the workday because I work full time. So I depend on people like Linda and these other people to educate me and let me know when it's important that I get involved. And I think that it's very important that this body here finds a way to communicate what's going on in the township and when you guys would prefer to have even more input, because I respect your jobs and what you're trying to do. And I really appreciate, your heartfelt goal here to be able to show your people that are working hard to show how much you appreciate them. And I think it's important. And I agree with you on a lot of things. But I also want to say that I was a recent employee of Grand Traverse County. I know Bonnie very well. And I was part of that wage review. And I do feel like what you commented on, Ron, is that they're a different entity. And we're comparing apples to oranges in that. And especially because I was part of that, I agree with you. And I'm aware of those things. I think that since we're talking about wanting to do more for the employees here, whether it's part-time or full-time, I think that you would be able to afford to do some of the other things that you're wanting to do in this arena if you were more conscientious about how you're spending money in other areas. One of the things that I did see today as I was reading through some information was how much money is being spent on attorney fees. And that scares me. And if I look at what has been spent and what is being, another $100,000 is being requested for this upcoming year, I don't know what the heck you guys are doing, that you need $100,000 to be represented by an attorney. And believe me, I want to be more involved because I want to know what's going on. And it goes back to dissemination of what is going on out to the taxpayers so that they can come in here and so that you don't feel the burden on your shoulders to make all these decisions without the taxpayers' input. That's extremely important. And I feel like I haven't been kept in the loop. I also want to speak to what Ron's point was as far as to Cheryl and to Ardella about training the deputies. And Ardella, I respect that you have taken the time to train those people and that you have the written book there to take for them to pick up and to refresh their memory on what you've trained them on. There is a stark difference in having to pick up a book that has all the instructions in it, never been trained before, and they have to look into that book and try and figure it out. I know, I've been there. I've wrote the instruction booklets. I've also had to train, and total difference. So I think if anybody has a responsibility or a potential responsibility of stepping into another person's role, they darn well better be trained and not expected to pick up a book and all of a sudden have to learn it right like that. It just doesn't happen that way. So let's talk reality when we're discussing these things. And the one last point here that I do want to share is that because of the different job situations that I've had, I mean, in 2019, I closed a project out in Pennsylvania where I was responsible for hiring and firing people and letting them go. I was responsible for training them. It was 15 plus people over 4 different states. That's what my responsibility was. I have a lot of experience in business management, but let me tell you, when I left that job, I in no way expected to take another job and start at the pay rate that I was getting paid at that time. I knew that when I started another job, I was going to have to convince those people that I was worth something, but I didn't expect to start at the top of the pay rate. And believe me, in the job I'm doing right now, still the same amount of responsibility, but I am not getting paid what I was getting paid then. And that's just part of what you expect when you change jobs. And as far as part-time, there's nobody out there working part-time that is getting the benefits that full-time people are getting. That's just reality. Now, if you want to use that, then instead of giving them pay raises and showing them that you appreciate them, then there was somebody on the Zoom that suggested it. Then you give them other options. Maybe you give them some flex time, or you do give them some paid days off, especially for personal days. Life happens, and these people have to be able to attend to their family as well. So be real and respect them as human beings, and they have a life, but it doesn't mean you have to give them pay raises, because not all value is in money. Okay. So if you guys would like to have some help once in a while, I'm available in the evenings.
Oh, you be careful with that, because I need.
I'll give you my phone number. I'll give you my phone number, because I think I agree with Ron. There's a lot of people out there. In fact, you just picked up a board of review person that I spoke with last night. She doesn't want more money. She is happy with what you guys have told her that she would get, because she wants to do it because she knows that it's for her community. That's me. I want to serve my community. There's a lot of people like us out there, and it's not all about money. So Ardella, I'll give you my phone number. And you too. Ron said, holds up his hand and says you too. But I do appreciate the work that you guys do, but I do think that we can be a little bit better stewards of the taxpayers' money, especially at this time with the economy the way it is. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the township hall wishing to make a comment?
I had to train her.
I'm not even gonna, I don't know.
Man, you might be walking home.
He's got the keys.
Okay, so I will go out to Zoom land, and it looks like there was a hand up a moment ago. So Tammy and Jeff, any public comment this evening? Connie, good evening. Once again, any second public comment?
Sure. I promised myself that when you give me an open public microphone, I'm gonna make a comment about the Baggs Road condominium development, but wow. You know my stance on that. My husband and I are against it, and that's all I'm gonna say at this meeting for that. But this is a comment in speaking with all respect to the board, all respect, because your job is hard. I wouldn't be on that board for anything. It's brutal. I'm not making a comment on the budget, although after listening on Zoom, it's really interesting, and a couple things were eye openers, to be sure. But I'm going to be honest here. I'm new to this area. Listening to some of these meetings at some point tonight, it was uncomfortable on Zoom. I'm glad you couldn't see my face because it was uncomfortable. I felt that there were comments that were insulting to other board members and to township residents too. So I know your job is not easy, not gonna lie. But I think that respect and professionalism go a long way, that they're important to be given and received. So thanks for your time. I appreciate you more than you know. Let's do better. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Kim, I see that your hand is back up again. Good evening.
Good evening. I guess I want to give you a couple positive comments. More money to planning commissioners isn't going to help us get anything else done. We're working as quickly as we can, but I can give you a really good example of where what some people have mentioned, investing in technology, investing in looking at other ways to do things has helped. You have already saved money on attorney fees by simply granting the Planning Commission access to a consulting planner. That is an investment that you've made that is paying off. It's helping us get things done that we could not do otherwise for at least the last 2 years since Leslie left. The Planning Commission has had to write all of our own draft ordinances. So it has really helped already for us to be able to get more done more efficiently and I think more completely by having access to a consulting planner. And I also want to give you kudos on one thing. You might call it a backhanded compliment. I did not think that there was any chance you were going to save this meeting. But I would want to congratulate you because I know how hard it is when things spiral out of control to step back, take a deep breath, and reevaluate, find a compromise, and be willing to move forward knowing that you will never agree on everything. So you did a good job of, once you got it back, got your feet back under you, you were still able to make progress and come to some consensus. And I want to congratulate you because I know how hard it is to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Vicky, I see that your hand is also up. Good evening for the second time.
Good evening for the second time. What a long meeting. I too, like Connie, every time that I have an ear to listen, want to bring up my opposition to the site condos on Baggs Road. Now that the snow is starting to melt, I encourage all of you to go out there and look at the issues that are going to happen with water runoff. They start moving things, it's going to make a big difference at all of our neighboring homes. And I'm curious as to where that water is going to go. I'm definitely losing my voice. I'm definitely glad I'm not there in person. As far as this meeting, I know I mentioned in the beginning as a business owner, I can't give raises right now just because gas prices have gone up. A lot of where you guys are right now in this disparity of pay all across the board really is a result of COVID. Think about what people were making at McDonald's pre-COVID. We did not have them making $20 an hour to ask for if you want fries to go with that. And the difference is when this does come back into play, they'll be able to hire people at a lower rate. They won't be stuck at that higher wage. And I feel that will eventually happen. So I just wanted to pass that on. You've been giving 3% along the way. That is extremely generous. And I too applaud you in coming together in a consensus. There are no part-timers out there that have benefits. That shouldn't even be something that is on the table. There are a lot of full-time employees that don't have benefits. So I would not even have that as part of the consideration. And there were two comments that were made that I guess I would just like everybody to think about. It was mentioned perhaps another committee for wage and scale. I can't do another meeting. I know most of you can't. I'm not sure that another committee is necessary. Just another layer, but something to consider. And I too was a little uncomfortable during some of this evening's comment. There was a comment made about there should not be grudges to grind on this board, and I completely agree. You are all representing your community. We appreciate you for your hard work and long hours, and probably thankless at a lot of times, but we've got to work together. There's a lot going on out there, and we look at you to lead us through it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Vicky. Let's see. Tom, good evening. Any comments this evening?
Could that be Vicky? on a
Tom, I
different
believe
phone?
that's Vicky, right?
Yep.
Hi, Vicky. If you have any public comment. Okay, well, then we'll move. We've already finished up here in the Township Hall. So that would be motion for adjournment.
I'll make a motion.
We all say amen.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? Roll call when ready.
Bennett? Yes. Goss, yes, Pop?
Yes.
Balnew?
Yes.
At 9:49. Thank you all. So I'll share that liaison contact information with the governor's office,
Appreciate it.
just so you have it. I don't think we need to do anything except kind of get on her information list and say, this is what we're interested in, right? So, yeah, Leelanau County was there. They've made a huge investment in internet.
Yeah.
Millions. But that's at the county level.
Well, I'm hoping our county level decides to do the same thing. But we don't know yet. Remember, they're still investigating. Well, then why did Gerald Nelson come here and tell us different?
Well, I don't think they're gonna do any internet. First of all, they've gone out to nothing but nonprofits for all of their incoming data. Cheryl, you want me to stop this meeting?
We'll take care of it.
What's that?
I'll take care of it.
That's a trip.